Hey folks, it's Ray with Taste Radio. Right now I'm honored to be sitting down with Milan Martin, who is the founder and CEO of the Free Spirits Company. Milan, great to see you.
Great to see you, Ray. Thanks for having me, man. This is exciting.
Isn't it exciting?
It really is, man. Like the energy in the room, and I mean, everybody here is just excited to be here, which just kind of bubbles up to something rad.
Totally. We're here in LA. You told me before we hopped on the mics you're from the Bay Area.
We are.
Well, you live in the Bay Area now.
From living in the Bay Area up in Marin County, where I founded the company.
Okay.
Originally from Philadelphia, spent my formative years in New York, and moved out here about a decade ago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you drive down?
No, I flew down.
You flew down?
Flew down via Philadelphia, again, of all places. My daughter had a volleyball tournament in Philadelphia over the weekend, so took her there for that. And then dropped her off back in San Francisco, heading down here for this.
You get to, visit some of the old stomping grounds?
I did. I had a cheesesteak or two from some of my favorite places.
What's the favorite place?
I'm a Geno's guy.
Okay.
I'm a Geno's guy. There's a big debate between Geno's and Pat's,
Sure.
and all of that. I've always been a Geno's guy. I had a beef from Dinick's in the Reading Market, and had some Mr. Softy, believe it or not.
Mr. Softy,
For
okay.
those who know. The ice cream truck that causes panic and desire amongst children of all ages chasing it down the street.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good blast from the past.
Get to visit any accounts that, selling some free spirits?
Yeah. We've got one of our bigger accounts is located in Bethesda, Total Wine and More. Took a trip down there and visited those folks. And it's terrific. It was really nice to be back.
It blew my mind. So one of my favorite restaurants in the Boston area, shout out Estragon. It's a tapas restaurant in the South End. I was there a few weeks ago, and one of the bartenders, buddy of mine, he was talking about their cocktail menu and how it has evolved. And I started to see non-alcoholic versions of their cocktails, the ones that have been on their menu for years, and they had versions without the booze for each one of them. And I had said, how are they doing? He's like, they're outselling. The non-alcoholic versions are outselling the quote-unquote full-strength ones. Yeah. And I couldn't believe it because, believe me, I love the idea of non-alcoholic spirits. Yeah. I just didn't think would be at this point yet.
It's happening fast, man. And it warms my heart to hear stories like that because, I founded the thing in 2019. And, you got a lot of people looking at you like you had three heads. Like, what is the point of non-alcoholic bourbon? I don't get it. Because the paradigm was anything non-alcoholic was for people that were in recovery or sober people or people that just chose not to drink. And you kind of realize pretty quickly the aha moment in this category is, no. Actually, this is for people who do drink. This is, and obviously people who choose not to drink can participate and do participate, and we love that segment of customers. But, by and large, this is for people like me who, I love the ceremony of a cocktail. And every time I've been, to put it politely, overserved in my life, it was a result of that phenomenon of like, you're somewhere great with somebody really interesting, and you're having a great conversation, and it's, wonderful energy. And you keep drinking cocktails, not because you're sitting there craving more alcohol, but because the experience is awesome. And I think more and more people are just waking up to that. And the on-premise loves it because people are drinking more. Check sizes are bigger. And, there's the corporate responsibility thing. And the off-premise loves it because most of the drinkers who buy non-alc still drink alc. So they're going and buying a bottle of Gordon's gin and Free Spirits, Spirit of Gin. And so the cart size is double. And it's just kind of a win-win for everybody in the ecosystem,
When you started the Free Spirits Company in 2019, how much research did you do about the trends in beverage alcohol and where this category could be going?
I have an exact number for you. The number is 0. And really, the thing for me, I think
what does 0 represent?
0 represents the amount of research I did.
Okay. I thought you were going to be like, there was 0...
Totally, no.
0 reason why I shouldn't get into this space right now.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. It was just one of those things where I think, it was a personal experience of mine. I spent 25 years in the advertising business. It's a business that trains you to look at trends and look at kind of irrational behavior and patterns, right? Like what
Because there's plenty of irrational behavior that happens in the advertising industry.
Well, that I could go on for hours about that. But even like we as human beings make these weird irrational decisions. Like you and I will go out for a couple cocktails. Cocktails are what, $18 a piece at a really nice place
Nowadays, yeah.
and you're like, yeah, sounds good, for 3 ounces of liquid, right?
Yeah.
Why is that okay? And we love it. We're happy to do, you spend hundreds of dollars on a bar tab, but $5 for a gallon of gas. Well, that's a step too far, right? And it's that kind of irrational behavior that you're trained to look for in the advertising business. You're like, wait, why is that, right? Well, it's because having a great cocktail is exciting. It's the story of all those ingredients. Where's the bourbon from? Oh, it's from that new place in Kentucky, right? Oh, I heard there's a horse on that, distillery called, Lucky, and there's a story behind that. Or where did the bitters come from? And the guy that mixed it up is, one of the most renowned bartenders. And all of that goes into that little glass. You're like, yeah, $17, $18, sounds good.
Right.
Right. And so I think, I founded it just based on the notion of like, well, gosh, I've always, every time I've overdrank, it's been because I just want more of that goodness.
Yeah.
And the research, point to your question is like, I didn't really research it. It was just a feeling. I thought I was pretty clever when I came up with the idea. And then you scratch the surface. You're like, oh, okay, well, there's a brand out there called Seedlip. And I was like, oh, that's interesting what they're doing. And in all candor, I looked at what they're doing as a way of how we do ours differently. Like for us, maybe we're just too lazy. I don't want to retrain the world how to drink a cocktail. Seedlip kind of does their own thing, right? They do a wonderful job at that. I wanted to make things that were analogs to tequila and bourbon and the spirits people know because, hey, if you're a margarita fan, just swap it out in whole or in part, right? And, at the end of the day, it might sound really tactical, but the vision for this thing is like, there's no such thing as a non-alc cocktail menu anymore. Mm-hmm. It's just every cocktail menu down at the bottom simply says, hey, anything you see here, we can make full strength, half strength, or zero strength. And it just kind of puts the control into the consumer's hands to say, no, I'm going to go out tonight. I'm going to crush the night. I'm going to drink a ton of cocktails. It's going to be high energy. But you know what? I'm also not going to put my health at risk. I'm not going to put my community at risk by driving. I'm not going to, I want to wake up tomorrow and run or whatever those things are. And it's kind of like that, I want to have it all.
There's a lot of reasons why you might not want to drink too much in one particular night. I think just in general, you don't want to drink too much. But there might be a lot of reasons why you say, okay, tonight in particular, I can't do that.
Yeah.
But what is the biggest reason that you have found people consuming your product, looking for your product on shelves, buying it on premise?
I think people have woken up to what we have been told as a society for now hundreds of years. And I'm the biggest offender here because I come from the marketing world and the advertising world. And for a century or more, we've been told that to have a good time, alcohol needs to be at the party or needs to be at the center of the party. And, we believe that. And at the end of the day, I think we've just started to kind of crack the nut a little bit on the notion that maybe that's not the case. And for us, it's not about teetotaling. It's not about abstinence. It's just about, saying, it's like that old notion of, hey, this party's really boring. Who's at the door? Oh, it's Captain Jack. You're like, great, now it's a party,
Right.
That notion that we've been kind of banged into our head for centuries now. And we're like, no, actually, maybe that's not the case. And ultimately it leads people to a self-discovery of, no, I don't want to be hungover tomorrow. I personally spent my 20s in one of two states. I was either drunk or hungover. And you look back and you're like, gosh, it's just not a great way to be from a health and wellness perspective. And health and wellness is ultimately the trend that's driving the category.
Yeah. I think there's another key part to this, and I've spoken with other founders of non-alcoholic spirit brands about taste. And yes, maybe you want to swap out your Manhattan with a non-alcoholic Manhattan or your gin and tonic with a non-alc gin and tonic, but not at the expense of great taste, right? You have an expectation of what this cocktail should taste like. You're paying a premium, even if it is a non-alc cocktail in most cases. And if it's not what you expect, you are going to be pretty upset.
Yeah.
So how do you get the taste right, especially when it comes to the aged spirits like a bourbon, which feel really, really hard to replicate in terms of flavor.
Yeah, for sure. So one of my favorite quotes of all time is a Reid Hoffman quote, the founder of LinkedIn. Said, if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you released it too late. And I look back at our first release of our gin, our bourbon, and they were fine. But we've run this thing like a software company with the humility to know that at the early days, like, we're making it up, man. The category didn't exist. And there was just a lot of liquid innovation that goes into, exactly as you were describing, how do we replicate the richness of a bourbon that has sat in a barrel for at least 3 years, that comes from a corn mash, all of those things, that has ethanol in it. What's that, impact on your palate? And so ultimately, we look at our liquid in 5 dimensions. There's the flavor, the taste, there's the nose, there's the mouthfeel, but we also look at the bite and the burn, and we look at the functional piece of it as well. We don't really tell the story a lot, but the functional piece of it's important. We put B vitamins in ours to make sure there's a real functional piece of it there. But to your question about taste, if you were to have tasted our tequila a year ago, you would have gone, all right, that's pretty good. If you taste the new tequila we launched about 3 months ago, it's game changing. And I don't want to pat ourselves in the back too hard, but it's taken us 4 years to figure out how to crack that authentic aged reposado style tequila that has those notes of obviously agave and vanilla and oak, but also that core just punch you in the face like, oh my God, this is tequila, kind of a thing. And I think we finally got there, and then we're doing the same thing. Now that we've kind of cracked some of those innovations, we're applying those same learnings to our bourbon and to our gin. And so, we've got kind of what I call our first generation products and our second generation products. And it's exciting as a founder, because I think early days you're always kind of apologizing a little bit. You're like, it's not as good as it's gonna be. And
well, I mean, it's tough to introduce a product, have someone try it, and then say, okay, well, I'll give them a second chance, even if I didn't like it the first time.
Sure.
So what's the famous line? You were in advertising. It's
you
never get a chance
to make the second impression.
Right. You only get one chance to make a. I forget people know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, but anyway,
that's right.
Does it matter? I mean, that maybe a customer didn't like the first taste of your product. I mean, it's probably very expensive to get them to come back. How do you convince them to come back a second time?
What's been the key to that is it's a little bit of the traditional adoption curve, right? The early days of, the passionate people who adopted our brand and the category in general are just much more forgiving, right? They're excited that there's a product out there that really scratches an itch for them. And, you get a lot of leeway with those folks. You don't get that leeway when you go mass. And I think we're at that inflection point where we're going from niche to mass. And, just in time, we've got the products in a place where I personally, early days, if you wanted to try the tequila, I would say, okay, well, it's fine on its own, but it's really meant for a cocktail. And now I'm in a place where I will proudly put the tequila or the new bourbon we're about to release or any of our products in front of somebody, and I'll go, dude, try this. Yeah. Really excited about it. And so I think, then the second piece of it is, we've just made the leap into the ready-to-drink space.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
And that is really, I never really intended to I never really thought about being in the RTD space. It wasn't an intention as much as just based on that, real basic insight that some people, a lot of people like cocktails, but not everybody's great at making them. And you're reliant on that. And so why don't we just make a great non-alcoholic cocktail? And so, as we go to mass, the world's first experience with free spirits is as perfect as it can be.
Well, I got to tell you, I have tried to make non-alcoholic cocktails at home.
Yeah.
And it's been harder than I thought it might be.
Yep.
I mean, I can make a Manhattan at home, no problem, pretty easy.
Yep.
But trying to make a Manhattan with a non-alcoholic spirit has been a bit more challenging.
Yep.
to the point where I appreciate the RTDs more because you already went through all the iterations, you went through all the development process that I didn't have to go through at home.
Yeah.
Do you think there's bigger opportunity in RTD than there is, particularly for the off-premise consumer?
Yeah, I 100% do. Yeah. It's funny. I think about our company as, a spirits company, a non-alcoholic spirits company, but a spirits company. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the size of the spirits category in general, the non-alc spirits category, and the size of the non-alc RTD category and the RTD category in general, I think within the next 3 or 4 years, the majority of our revenue will come from RTDs.
Again, I'm not a professional mixologist. I can make a cocktail, but when I want a really, really good cocktail, I'll go to my local bar or restaurant. Yeah. And I think they have the experience, they have the trial and error to go through the process and say, okay, this is great. This is something we're going to be proud to sell to our patrons. Yep. That makes me think that you've got to have a great relationship with the trade, with the industry. And, the restaurant I was talking about at the beginning of our conversation had a very specific brand out there that has a very big strategic partner aligned with them, and you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. How do you get your brand on shelf? How do you get your products in those bar backs when you are competing with brands that already seem to have a head start, have those big distribution and money partners?
That's where we are right now. Right now it's starting to become, a foot race. There's a lot of great brands in this category. We've been fortunate enough to kind of continue to punch above our weight. And we now compete really in a foot race in terms of leading the category with the brand that you're referencing. I'll just say it, Ritual. They make a good product, and they've got the backing of one of the world's largest strategics behind them, and respect the heck out of what they're doing. I think for us, we've just had to be scrappier. Our sales teams, and even me, and even if you're not on the sales team, we run an organization that kind of goes, hey, we're lighting up Massachusetts. Let's all get on planes. Let's go to, you take Boston. We'll put 3 or 4 people in Boston. We'll put a couple of people in other smaller cities, and we just canvas. And because 100%, you're absolutely right, which is the growth of this category depends on the trade, specifically bartenders, to embrace it and to make great cocktails. Like, there's a bunch of accounts that we have that kind of do the obligatory, we got a non-alcoholic margarita, right? And it's less than stellar. And we've got those accounts that put their backs into it, and they're like, hey, we've actually, we've infused, the non-alc margarita with, jalapenos and these other things. There's one up, one of my favorite restaurants up in Marin by us called Farm Shop. They do a terrific job of, actually aging the cocktail and that they make. And so, they charge parity pricing. They charge the same price for non-alc as they do for alc. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing, because that ultimately says the right thing to the world, which is, alcohol is not a precious commodity. Everybody, when we started the company, everybody would go, wow, there's no alcohol in it. Why is it the same price? Because people ascribe value to alcohol, where at the end of the day, what you're paying for is the craft and the innovation and the process and all of that.
I would think, if I were you, I would have a hard time keeping my products in that bar or restaurant that makes a crappy cocktail. Yeah. It's for me, it's like akin to being in a retailer that's going to put you on the bottom shelf behind another brand. It's like, well, why do I want to be in that retailer? You take my product and nothing's going on. It's not going anywhere. Yeah. So in those instances, what do you do?
I wish I could say we, went and pulled our product out and took it home with us and,
smash the bottles.
Exactly, saved our precious
I'd rather
baby.
throw it away than serve it here.
But, you got to kind of stay in the game, knowing that, certain venues are going to take a little bit of time to click to grid. And it's on us to go to them and say, hey, man, like, here's the opportunity you're missing, right? If you only, you're kind of halfway there. But if you really put your backs into making these cocktails great, and by the way, don't charge, mocktail pricing. This is not a Shirley Temple, right? Like, this is a category wherein everybody wins. The consumer wins, the on-trade wins, everybody wins if you do it right.
I feel like I'm going to win soon because it's almost cocktail hour here.
Yes.
But I definitely cannot have a boozy cocktail right now.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to try some free spirits.
It's a good place to start. I'm looking over at the desk, and they said that they were going to deliver some of our RTDs, but they have yet to do so.
I'm just going to go up to the bar and be like, I'm in good with Milan. He said, he was going to comp me a cocktail or two. So if you have an extra charge on your hotel room,
I'll know why.
You're going to know why. You're going to be like, that bastard Ray.
Hey, man, I'm all about sampling. It's all about liquid to lips, buddy.
It really is.
Yeah.
I mean, for people to want to try your product, they have to be enticed by it. I think if you enticed our audience to try free spirits.
Yeah, I mean,
especially the tequila. The way you describe the tequila? Come on.
You will not be disappointed.
Okay, great.
Right on.
Milan, we got to keep this conversation going. Are you guys in Massachusetts or no?
We are.
Okay, cool.
We've got a great distribution partner there called Ruby Wines.
Oh, yeah, Ruby.
Yeah.
Ruby's great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I will start looking for your product.
Love it.
In restaurants in the Boston area. Admittedly, I don't drink as many non-alc cocktails, but I'm going to start looking for yours.
Change that.
Yeah, we're going to start. Well, for my own health and benefits, we should change that for sure.
On.
All right. Really great speaking with you. Thanks so much for the conversation, and good luck with everything going forward.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
Really has.